Namaste, healthy home cooks, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Amanda Behrens. Today, we're going to be whipping up a warming batch of South Indian style curry. Nothing says hello fall like a warming batch of curry. Well, that and pumpkin spice, of course. We're pairing that with a creamy cup of masala chai. So get your slippers on, come into my kitchen, and let's cook some curry. All right, so on today's show, we're going to be using a lot of spices. One of the main spices is garam masala, which is actually used in a lot of northern Indian curries, but we're going to be using it today because it has a really nice warming effect. We're going to be pairing that with turmeric, cinnamon, cumin, all sorts of spices. So I like to make them in advance in a pre-mix. You'll be able to find the recipe and the spice mix in the comments of the video. And what makes this a southern curry is the use of this. One of my favorite ingredients to use is coconut milk. This is one of my favorite brands, and we're gonna be using full fat, thank you very much. So this with the spices is just a perfect combination for your curry. And I like to add extra vegetables to my curries. You don't have to. This particular curry is great on its own with just the flavor base, the spices, and the coconut milk. But if you want to add some extra vegetables, I like to add mushrooms, broccoli, and some bell peppers. We've got some orange bell peppers in this recipe. I personally like a really nice spicy curry, but you don't have to add any peppers. I'm gonna be adding some jalapenos, some red chilies, and there's a little bit of cayenne in the spice mix. So I'll warm it up a little bit. And of course, we've got garlic that's gonna go in there. For the chicken, I like to use a combination of chicken breast and thighs, but you can use any part of the chicken that you like, except of course the feet. You can even just use chicken breasts, but I like the well-rounded flavor of combining the breasts with the thighs. And so we've got about 2 pounds of meat in this recipe. And all you have to do to prepare the chicken is let it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes before you're going to cook it. You don't want to be cooking with the chicken right as it comes out of the fridge because it's going to get a mealy texture, which it's not going to go very well with your curry. So for the chicken, before I dice it into cubes, I like to tenderize it a little bit with my handy meat tenderizer. That way I get more of an evenly distributed cook. The thighs, I don't have to worry about that, okay? You don't have to do that with the thighs, but with the breasts you do. And then I just add salt and pepper. And in this case, I'm adding both salt and pepper. Most of the time, I don't like to add pepper to my meat before I cook it because the pepper tends to get bitter when you cook it at high heat. We're gonna be using a little bit of a medium heat, and we're already adding the spices to the chicken anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and add both salt and pepper to our chicken. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add some generous amount of salt to my meat. You want to really get all in there. Like you really want to make sure the salt covers all of the edges. Okay. Just a little bit of pepper. We also have pepper in the spice mix, so don't worry about adding too much or too little here. Now we're going to get our stove ready for our chicken and our flavor base. So I'm just going to get the stove ready. All right, so let's get the party started. I'm gonna start by getting the stove heated to about medium heat. You want just enough heat to get a nice sear on the edges, but you don't wanna overcook the chicken, okay? So while this is heating, I'm gonna get the oil ready. I like to use a combination of avocado oil and coconut oil. I use the coconut oil sparingly because it has more calories, right? So I'm gonna use a couple of tablespoons of avocado oil and 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, all right? So I'll just add our oil. I love avocado oil. I tend to cook with that a lot. It's great for meats actually, and it has a very neutral flavor profile. And I like to get the refined coconut oil because it doesn't have that coconut flavor. It's very neutral, especially for the meat. Okay, so I'm gonna let this heat up, melt the oil, get the pan really hot, because when we're gonna add the chicken, we're gonna get that nice sear. All right, let's get our chicken in the pot. It's ready to go here. Okay. Ooh, listen to that. That's the sound you want to hear. All right, so you want to spread it evenly around. Okay. Right. You want to start letting it cook. A little bit before we add our spices. We're going to add our spices directly right here. It's going to be delicious. If you think the chicken is crowded, trust me, it's not. It's going to shrink up quite a bit during the cooking process. Especially, so after we flip it, you're going to see that there's going to be a lot of space. All right? And don't touch the chicken. When it's at this stage, you want to let it start to get a nice char. So you want to leave it on one side for 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to add the spices. I'm using a lot here because it has tons and tons of flavor. It's excellent. Okay. So these spices are going to start to soak into the meat. Now, you know, in most of the Indian curries that I make, I usually marinate the chicken in Greek yogurt with the spices first and add some additional spices when I'm cooking. But in this case, with the coconut milk and this particular spice mix, you don't need any additional dairy. Your house is going to smell amazing with this recipe, trust me. All right. So while it's cooking, you can either put the lid on or off. It's entirely up to you. Because there's quite a bit of water in the chicken, right? You're going to want to let the moisture evaporate off a little bit. You don't want to necessarily trap it in just yet. So I like to get a good sear before and flip before I put the lid on. Okay, so let's check these guys here. Let's check. Ooh. Make sure everybody gets a spot in the pool. Ooh. Yeah, you can really smell the cinnamon in this spice mixture. So good. I like to use Saigon cinnamon, but you don't have to use that cinnamon. You can use any cinnamon. I only use a 1/4 teaspoon, but it really comes through in this dish. It's so warming at this time of year. It goes very well with the garam masala. Okay, all right. So now we're gonna start flipping these guys. Right? And don't worry about the spice being lost into the mix. That's completely fine. Or the other side of the chicken, that's fine. Just let it go where it wants to go. Okay, you just wanna make sure you've got an even cook on each side of the chicken. Again, it does not have to be fully cooked. And flip each of these pieces. Okay. Look at all that beautiful chicken. It's so good. So good. We've got a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of chicken here. Oof. That fat from the thighs is really gonna up the flavor level here without having to add additional fat. The only fat that's coming into this dish is organically, essentially, from the chicken thighs. And just a little bit from your coconut and your avocado oils, all healthy fats that you need. You don't need butter, lard in this recipe at all. And the creaminess and fat from the coconut milk is really going to up-level the profile of the spices. Cannot wait to try this. Okay, all right, so once you flip all of your chickens, okay, got a little rogue one over here, all right? Again, you wanna let that sit for about 3 to 4 minutes, right? You don't wanna see any pink, okay? That you just don't see pink. And then you can start to work on the next of your flavor base. Obviously, we don't have a lot of room in this pan, so we're gonna be transferring our chicken to a separate bowl and then building the next layer of our flavor profile, okay, with the onions, the peppers, and the garlic. All right, and at this stage, I would really love to add additional moisture or keep the moisture that already exists in the meat. So I'm gonna add my lid here. There we go. All right. It smells delicious. All right, so let's check on the meat. Ooh, look at that. Hear that sizzle? That's the sound of a good meal right there. Definitely the sound of a very good curry, all right? Look at that meat, right? So now you see the meat should be cooked evenly on both sides, no more pink, okay? So now you're free to kind of move it around a little bit. You know, see how much more space we have. Definitely shrunk up in size, okay? Look at that. Okay, this is a good spot. We've got a little bit of caramelization. That's where the flavor is. We're ready to transfer our chicken into another pot and add our onions, okay? So I'm definitely gonna make sure I'm medium to medium low on this part because we don't wanna sear the onions, okay? So I'm gonna carefully as I can, move this. Ooh, I got a rogue chicken, okay? And don't worry about the extra sauce in the pan, okay? And you don't have to add any additional oil at this stage because of the excess sauce here. Now, you can go ahead and add your onions right directly to this lovely base. And actually, you can also add peppers at the same time. And it's so much easier. Again, I love to use chilies, so those are going in at this stage too, okay? If you don't have a bakery knife, you need to get one. Definitely one of my favorite kitchen tools, okay? I'm gonna change up my cooking tool a little bit, okay? So you wanna get a nice glaze on your vegetables at this stage. We're going to be adding some garlic to the next step. But you don't want to be adding it too early or it's going to get bitter. Okay, so let's get some nice char on this. Now, if your pan is too hot and you start to see some char, like I am, right, which is what you're trying to avoid, what you can do is you take your spray oil. I use avocado spray oil. Just give it a little bit of glaze, and that way you're not adding actually any additional too much fat, but you're getting a nice glaze for it to continue to cook the way we want it to, okay? And I like to add salt and pepper and flavor every layer, okay? So I'm gonna go grab my sea salt or my Himalayan pink mountain salt, okay? Add a nice layer, add some nice pepper, get that going on in there. Smells delicious. This is gonna add the first layer of flavor to our curry. It's gonna complement the spices very, very well. So, you know, you can be pretty versatile. If you don't like garlic, you don't have to add it. It is not a cornerstone ingredient. In fact, most Indian curries don't have garlic because it can be too overpowering. The spices itself alone are very, very fragrant and can stand alone. But I love garlic, so I'm going to be adding 3 cloves to this recipe. So you just want to wait for a nice glaze. You kind of want to cook up the peppers a little bit. Once you get the peppers at the beginning stages of cooking, now's a good time to add the rest of your veg. And again, I like to sneak in veg, so I'm going to add our broccoli and our mushroom. Okay. Just give that a toss with the rest. Okay. And if you want to add a little bit of salt and pepper here, you can. You don't have to. I like to, and I'm going to. Okay. Get those veg all roasted here. Just another way to add some more nutrition to your meal. You know, you could also add potatoes. Potatoes are a really nice complement to the coconut milk and the spices. In fact, if you want to thicken up your sauce without adding too many additional carbs, or at least better carbs, you can add a mashed potato to the sauce mix as it's cooking, and that'll thicken up the sauce. But honestly, with the coconut milk and the type of tomatoes that we're using, the sauce is going to thicken up on its own. It depends on how much carbs you want to add here. I personally don't think you need them, so I don't add them. With the broccoli, you do have to be careful. You do not want it to be too wilty. There's nothing worse than biting into a soggy piece of broccoli. So you don't want to overcook these. You just want to give a nice glaze on the peppers and the onions. Right, and just a nice little glaze, if not semi-char, on the mushrooms and the broccoli, right? That's it for a couple seconds, right? About this stage is when you want to add your garlic. And you're gonna have to be a little quick. You wanna make a little hole for it, a little space. Garlic needs its own space, okay? And you're gonna stop cooking it, and you're gonna add the rest of your ingredients once you smell the garlic. Once you have a nice garlicky aroma, that's good enough. You don't want it to burn. That's when we're gonna add our tomato sauce. And I'm gonna be using crushed tomatoes. You can also use pureed tomatoes. Again, I use very simple quality ingredients always in my cooking. I love San Marzanos. These are my favorite tomatoes to cook with. So that's what we're using today. And again, my favorite Thai coconut milk. And you wanna add those too quickly before the mix gets too hot to risk separation in the sauce, right? So let's go ahead and add our garlic so that we don't forget, because I've done that before and that is not fun, right? By the way, I'm using minced garlic. Nobody wants chunks of garlic in their curry, okay? Maybe you do, I don't. So we're adding the garlic, right? Get a little sear. Oh, okay. Now we're gonna mix it in. Smell that. Ooh. That's all you need right there. Garlic, spices, chai. Oh. Okay. All right, I think we are ready for, oh, guess what? We have a nice flavor layer. If you're lucky enough to see that brown layer at the bottom, don't think you've burnt anything. You have not. No, that's flavor right there. Secret here, what you want to do is to incorporate that in the rest of your dish. And make sure you have a little chicken stock ready. I always keep some sort of bone broth in my fridge. So we're going to add just a little bit, not a lot, maybe like a teaspoon or so. And then that kind of deglazes the pan and gets that flavor mix up, right? So we can incorporate that into the dish. And then we don't waste that flavor and we don't burn the bottom of our pan, right? So now I'm gonna add our pureed or crushed tomatoes. Depends on how thick you want your tomatoes in your sauce. I usually use pureed, but in this case I'm gonna use crushed. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add my coconut milk right away, right there. Okay. All right. So this is when we get to bring our sauce down to a simmer. Now remember the trick I said? about garam masala. You don't want to be adding it at the beginning and burn off all that beautiful flavor. This is the time when you want to be adding it to the sauce mix when you're simmering to keep that aromatic, characteristic curry flavor. Right? So as this heats, the coconut oil, or coconut milk rather, and the tomato sauce is gonna cook together. I like to add a couple of teaspoons of the garam. Beautiful, look at that beautiful. Oh. Okay. And don't worry about salt and pepper yet. You're gonna be doing a final flavor test soon. Just wanna incorporate everything all in. Oh, look at that color. All right, so now we're ready to add our chicken and let it simmer. Okay, and don't leave out those beautiful juices that we created in the last batch. In fact, I'm gonna get my handy spatula and get out all of that beautiful chicken flavor right there. Okay, all right. Let's just incorporate all that beautiful, and this is also where the color is really gonna shine. Look at that beautiful orange fall color. Really see the turmeric in that spice mix. Good thing I'm wearing a yellow shirt, because you don't want to be staining your sweater when you make this. Okay. Now once you get, so there's still a little bit of oil, right? You just want to, now this is pretty thick. I like to pack my curry full of things. If you prefer more sauce, you can reduce the amount of additional ingredients that you're adding. But I like a nice hearty curry, so I pack my pot full here. All right, perfect. Okay. Now we're gonna put the lid on and let this puppy simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes 15, even longer. If you need to get dinner on the table really fast, 5 to 10, 15 minutes is just fine. You can even let this sit on simmer and low for a good couple of hours, which is even better to let those flavors mature. So while we're waiting for our curry to simmer, I actually transferred it to another burner to give us more space for our chai. Chai actually means tea, so we don't say chai tea, we say chai. I'm going to be making a masala chai based on the combination of spices that I'm going to be using today. And we're going to add the creaminess by adding some keto creamer. Traditionally, in India, to make this chai, you can use whole milk. But given the healthy profile of our meal today, I decided to go with this keto creamer because it has MCT oil, which naturally exists in coconuts. So it's going to bring out and complement the flavors of our dish. So we're going to be using this at the very end. So as you can see here, we got a lot of different combination of spices, and we're going to start to heat those in our saucepan before we add the tea bags and the water. Okay, so I'm just gonna start our, this one here, there we go. I'm gonna start our stove. I'm gonna put this on medium, actually. Okay, all right, I'm gonna start by getting our cardamom pods ready. I'm gonna be adding 12 pods, okay, and you wanna be crushing them before we add. See those little flavor beads that are in there? Okay, we want to immerse those into our tea. Okay, great. So just add those to our little pot. Don't forget the little beads of flavor, okay? Great. Then we're gonna add a couple of star anise. Love these, nice little licoricey note. Okay, then we're gonna add our about 8 cloves of peppercorn, 8 cloves of cloves, and 8 peppercorns, black whole peppercorns. Okay, then we're going to add our coriander seeds. I usually add about whatever's going to fill the palm of my hand. Okay. Then we're going to add a few whole allspice. Okay. Great. Gonna let that toast up just a little bit. Just a little bit, just to release the aromatics. Once you start to smell the spices, that's when you start to add the water and the rest of the seasonings, or spices rather. And our tea bags. Oh, there it is. Smells like Christmas. Oh, I make this year round. You can make this iced. Of course, in the fall and winter, you want to have this hot. You don't have to add creamer to it. I like to, especially in the wintertime. Just goes really well with the spices. You can also add sugar. I don't add sweetener to this, or at least I'm not going to now. You can add honey. You could add brown sugar. Maple syrup is really good. Here, that's nice spice sear there. Okay, so that's 4 cups of water that I'm adding. I'm gonna add 4 tea bags, so a tea bag per cup of water. Okay, get those guys going in there. I'm gonna add 4 slices, about thumb size, or thumb tip size, bits of ginger, fresh ginger. And then we're gonna be adding actually I should take this lid off here, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. So at the very end, we're gonna be straining this. So don't worry about all of the bits that are going into this liquid, right? And 4 cinnamon sticks, okay? Let's get those all mixed in there. And you wanna get this just hot enough to a boil, but you don't wanna boil, otherwise you're gonna make the tea and the spices very bitter. So you just wanna bring this to a boil, and then we're gonna turn off the heat. Just move this around. Another lovely ingredient, I'm using pure bourbon vanilla extract. You don't have to use vanilla extract. It's better to use the bean. It's very difficult to find vanilla beans, whole fresh vanilla beans right now. So this is an easily accessible substitute. So I'm gonna add a teaspoon. Just a couple of teaspoons. It's very strong, so you don't need a lot. But 1 to 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Right, so just let that boil up. And ideally, you want to let this sit for as long as possible. If you want to let it sit for 2, 4, 8 hours, that's just fine. The longer the better. But we're just going to let it steep for about 20 minutes as we let our curry finish cooking. Yeah, don't worry about the strings. Great. All right, so our chai is nicely boiling, so we're gonna put the heat, keep the heat nicely in the pot with the lid, okay? Let that simmer. Yeah, so I turned the heat off of the stove, and I'm gonna let that simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you're eating rice, you can definitely use rice as your base mixture for your curry. I'm actually gonna transfer this over here and use this pan here. And again, you wanna turn up the heat to about, we're gonna do low to medium here for the cauliflower. So I like rice cauliflower to add some additional veg. And this is, you can either make your own by using a food processor and using fresh, but I love, the packaged versions are just so easy that it just makes it so much easier to cook that we're gonna use the store-bought version today, the prepared version. And so you don't have to add anything. However, I do like to add salt and pepper to mine. Right? Don't have to add any other oil. You just wait for the water to burn off, and you're just basically steaming the cauliflower, and then we have our meal all ready to go. Just kind of wait till that steams up a little bit. The combination of the chai, the curry, cannot wait to eat. So it looks like our cauliflower rice is all cooked and ready to go. Turn the heat off, right? We're ready to plate up. Okay, so let's grab. We're gonna start with the cauliflower rice. We've got our bowls and our condiments, our toppings. Oh. So I add like about a cup to each of the bowls, okay? Then we get our curry ready. Ooh, look at that steaming pot of goodness. It smells amazing. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring this right over here. Right, get our spoon, our serving spoon. Nice serving of vegetables and chicken and broth. I love the broth on top of there. Okay, and what I like to do, always want to finish with a little bit of lemon juice. Okay, in fact, you can add some more to the pot here. Then we finish off with toppings of toasted, fresh, or dried rather, coconut, and some cilantro. There we go. South Indian curry. Easy, simple. Now that our curry is cooling and ready for us to eat, we're gonna finish off our chai by getting a transfer pot ready. Okay, get your sieve ready. Okay. Oh, it smells delicious. Right? And you can, if you're worried about it, you don't have to transfer it on the pot. You can transfer it over the stove, but I'm gonna do it right here. Now we're gonna add our cream to finish off our chai. Again, I'm using the keto creamer. You can use anything you'd like. And you don't want this too hot. Just add a couple of tablespoons, right? Get that nice there. Get a spoon, mix that cream in there. Lovely, it's a good color. Okay, then, all right, I like to do this over the sink, just so I don't spill that beautiful chai all over my kitchen. All right, perfect. Okay, now we're going to, actually I'm gonna put this back on the stove, and we're gonna finish it off with 1 pod of star anise. Let that guy float right there. And a sprinkle of some ground cardamom. And there you go. That's gonna go beautifully with the curry. It smells amazing. Okay, friends, thank you very much for watching my first episode. It was a privilege cooking for you today. If you want the list of ingredients and the recipe, check out the description, and I hope you keep watching. This was Amanda Behrens. Until next time, happy cooking.